Joining me now is Marsha Lane Foster. She is an award-winning photographer, domestic abuse survivor, and filmmaker. She is also the owner and proprietor of Lane Foster Fine Art Gallery in Springdale, Arkansas. Welcome back to the show, Marsha.
Thanks. It's such an honor to be here. I love it when you ask me to participate.
Oh, I love chatting with you, so this is perfect. The last time we met, we were actually in the studio, and we've been doing this show from home now. I don't even know how long. It seems like forever.
Right?
So it's great to see you again and talk about women in business, because you're kind of across several different businesses, so I think you may have a unique perspective to share. So let's talk a little bit about your life and how you came to fine art and the intimate photography that you do.
Okay. Well, how I came to photography was I've always been interested in photography from the time I was a child, but my life has been pretty chaotic for the majority of it, and I had my children very young, and what goes along with that very often is poverty and isolation, and I didn't have the means to be creative for many years. But once I started working in a bank and was making my own money, even though I was still married, I decided to buy myself a Christmas gift one year, and I bought myself a camera. It was a Canon Rebel film camera. I think it was around 2002-ish, and started taking photographs of people's children in the bank, and it just kind of went from there. Most photographers begin as landscape photographers or taking pictures of flowers and things like that. But I was a portrait photographer from the very beginning. And so did that many years in conjunction with also being a banker. And as my career was kind of, blossoming and I was moving up the ranks within the bank, I was still doing that. And then, started second shooting, weddings with other photographers, and that was really where I learned the most of what I've learned. Weddings are unique in that it's kind of like the perfect storm. If you can learn to shoot a wedding, you can literally learn to shoot anything, because you've got all lighting conditions, you've got all personalities, you've got all, you're under a time crunch. So it's a perfect storm. If you can learn to survive that, then you can do it. So anyway, started my own photography business in 2010, actually exited the corporate world at that time, and I've been doing photography, professionally since then. For the first couple of years, I was just shooting everything. I knew I was just trying to find what spoke to me, and I was really excited to have my own business, but I still felt a little disjointed. Just things didn't feel like they were in alignment to me. And then what I realized after I found boudoir photography and realized that that's what I wanted to be doing was that wedding photography, children's photography, all the engagements, all of those things made me sad, because those were kind of sad moments in my life. I mean, it's not fun to say that the birth of a child was sad, but sometimes it was for me, because I was young and people didn't have much expectations for me, and I was in abusive situations and what have you. So I realized that even though photography was my passion, the subject matters were actually making me sad. So I decided, when I found boudoir photography, I decided that it would be a vehicle that I could use to empower women and help them to escape emotional abuse and physical abuse and things like that. So that's kind of how it started. And then over the years, boudoir photography grew and blossomed. And then again, I felt like I was doing the work I was supposed to be doing, but something was missing. And that's whenever I found fine art photography in 2015.
Excellent. So listening to your story, I was thinking, many women may feel that they're kind of stuck in a situation. I know I have felt stuck many times.
Yes.
Have been in bad situations, wasn't sure how to move forward. And you kind of invested in yourself.
Yeah.
It seems that's kind of
finally.
Yes, right. But that investment took you on a journey. So do you think that might be kind of a first step for other women too?
Well, definitely. I think, that my platform is kind of art heals hearts and art saves lives. And I have a very broad view of what art is, but I believe that everybody needs to be creative. There was a time in my life where that was the farthest thing from my mind, but now looking back on it, I think that had I pushed that and tried to be creative, it could have been my saving grace sooner than what it was. So I think that a lot of people have a narrow view of what art is, but I see everything as creating. Even if you're living in the world and you're living your life, then you're a creator because you're creating your life on a daily basis. And if you're a creator, you're an artist. So I have a very broad view of what art is, and at the same time, a broad view of how it can save you. So investing in yourself in some way, even if you're just drawing on a piece of paper or just being creative with your kids, whatever. We are human beings that are made to create, and we have to. It's part of what makes us happy.
Right. I love that. When you were talking about also finding that creative point in yourself, however you do it, that too is an investment because you're actually taking time for yourself. And I think a lot of times as women, when we're in situations that seem impossible, it feels like it's too hard to find that time even, so do you have any advice for women who may be in that position where they're not sure that they could take that time?
Well, looking back retrospectively, whenever I was, so poor and, we had what we needed, but my husband at that time kept all of our money. So I was not allowed to have my own money. If he gave me money to do something, I had to go spend it on that and then bring him the change. Wow. And sometimes he would say, we just keep it, if it was a little bit. So I did things like go to the library. So, sometimes I had a car, but I would go to the library and check out books. And I remember one time finding a book. There were two that seemed to be life-changing for me at that time. One was about the Titanic, which I kind of knew about, but didn't really. And so, one of those beautiful, large coffee table books that weigh 15 pounds. And I just poured over all of it. And then the other was about the Saturday Evening Post. And that was probably the first art book that I ever read. Nice. And so that was, even though I wasn't creating anything, I was getting into that space. I would look at the book while my kids were playing or when they were napping or what have you. But that's what I did with my days, because sometimes I had a car, but very often I didn't have a car and I was stuck at home with kids all day long. Something. And the other thing I was going to say is that even if you can't be creative now, or even if you can't get out of the situation you're in now, you could be planning for when you can get out of that situation.
Right. Always looking ahead. In the moment, it seems dire, but if you open your world a little bit and look ahead, maybe you can see other avenues. So I think that's very good advice. I think you're very brave also to be honest and state that these events like weddings and births and felt sad to you. I don't think women often talk about that and how they don't feel empowered in those situations because of where their life went,
Definitely. And I'm very transparent about my life and where it's gone. And that kind of started, that public transparency started with the Hostage Project in 2015, because that was such a raw project and it was about me and it was about other women who had been in abusive situations. And then it became about, women that are held back in any way, shape or form. So that's whenever I kind of was able to get over myself and share those things with the world. But I remember when that show first showed, I was so afraid that my kids would disown me, that everybody that loved me wouldn't love me anymore because I was being so honest and raw about the things that had happened. And I say all that.
It's vulnerable. It's very vulnerable.
It is, but it like anything, the more you do something, the easier it becomes. And so, there's times I share things and I'm like, do people really need to know that about me? But the thought that came to my mind when you were talking about being vulnerable is that I remember, so I had my children at 15, 16, and 18. And I remember when I was in the hospital in labor with my second child when I was 16, it was 13 months after my first child had been born.
Whoa.
And I remember thinking, I hope the nurses don't recognize me. I hope it's not the same nurses here as was a year ago, because what if they recognize me and they're going to think that I'm so stupid. And, when so many people would say to me, well, don't you know what causes that? Things like that. Mm-hmm. And so
right.
That's a very vulnerable thing. I don't know that I've ever shared that with anyone, but that's what came to mind when we were talking about that.
Yeah, I think for many people who have been victimized, there's so much shame involved. And overcoming that, it may be one of the most difficult parts. I know for me, it was, for sure, for the things that happened in my life. But once you get over that hump,
yeah,
there's no stopping you, I think.
No.
The strength is amazing.
The reason that I share those things, because, I get people all the time to, you're such a badass, you do all these things and you're so great. I'm like, well, I'm really not. It's mostly persistence. But I want women or whoever to know that and I've not done anything on my own. Everything takes a village and takes help and takes, people to help you. But if I have done anything, then I know other people can do it, because I'm not that special. It's just you decide what you want and you do it. And it may take a really long time. It took me from the abusive marriage that were, the really abusive marriage, it took filing for divorce 3 times. And that's not even counting how many times I left or how many times, that there were separations in between in that 17 years. So just don't think because if you don't succeed on the first time that you're doomed, because it takes time.
Another chance, right?
Yeah, there's always another chance.
I think that's important for people to hear too. So let's talk about film a little bit.
Okay.
You're a filmmaker. How have there been specific challenges because you're female in the film arena, the film business? What have you had?
Well, my film career is in flux right now. I'm actually moving towards more fine art type filmmaking, and kind of I'm in a place right now where I'm information gathering about fine art and documentary filmmaking, because I really want to do things that I can do more on my own without needing a big crew. But when I did, and I'm not super experienced in filmmaking, but I've seen some stuff at this point. And I worked on a production where the director of photography refused to acknowledge that I was alive. And so I was camera B. And so I was the second camera on this production, and he wouldn't speak to me. He wouldn't acknowledge that I was there. If he thought I was in the way, he, get out of the way. And so I spent a 2-week shoot just being persistent and going to him and saying, hey, what do you need me to do? I will do anything that you need me to do. Well, he had his own crew and he didn't want me doing anything. But I'll say that, I call that person a friend now. And,
okay.
It's just harder for women on film sets because film is physically demanding. Mm-hmm. And that's another reason why I'm backing away from a lot of production in that sort, because I'm almost 50 years old now and I can do it, but it is very physically demanding. And to be honest, I just don't want to work that hard anymore.
Good for you. You have to, we try things in life and you figure out what works and what doesn't,
Right.
how you feel about it. And I think that's important for women, for all people to hear, that it's great and it's good to try things, and that might not be the exact thing.
Well, photography is physically demanding too. And I mean, I've already spent, counting my non-professional and professional years, I've already spent 20 years behind a camera, and it's physically demanding and it's hard on your body. And so before I ever even embarked on filmmaking, my body was kind of a little bit used up from just taking photographs. So I'm really looking towards more, like I said, fine art stuff, maybe some documentary stuff. And then I'd really like to do some producing. I'm working on becoming financially independent so that I can fund other filmmakers. And until then, I do what I can do to support the community, like the gallery I'm having on November 13, where we're going to screen a short film by another woman filmmaker.
Wonderful. Yeah, so let's talk about the gallery. How exciting, you opened a gallery.
I know.
Yes.
It was something, I mean, I've done it for a while. When I was in downtown Rogers, before Art on the Bricks, I did eight or nine galleries in 18 months. So every other month I would cram everything in my studio into the side room, and I would have two artists, and I opened it up for a Friday night pop-up, and it was always very successful. Would have between 75 and 100 people. We'd have food and wine, and it was just a great time. And gave a lot of emerging artists their starts, and some other people got to exhibit, and maybe it didn't stick, maybe they decided that's not what they want to do, but some other ones were like, wow, I can actually do this. So I stopped doing that because it's an incredible amount of work, but I was able to cut my teeth a little bit on curating, and then on also being that person in the gallery that works with the artists and helps them and holds their hand about writing their artist statements and how to present their work in a professional way, because I'm very particular about things like that. And so that's kind of where I got my experience. And then I really had just outgrown my studio in downtown Rogers. So in February of 2021, this year, I moved to Springdale. So I have a 3,000 square foot space, and it's massive.
Yeah, that's
I've got something like 750 feet of horizontal hanging space in this space, and it's huge. So I knew this is what I wanted to do. And the other cool thing about it is that I can hang a gallery and it can stay up now for, a month or 2 months or 3 months until I do another gallery, where I had to tear everything down before. So everyone that comes in is combined with my photography studio and also my insurance office. So everyone that comes in to do anything else is going to see the art too.
Mm-hmm.
So that, and my other,
You also have another business with insurance. So there's all these art related businesses and then an insurance business as well.
Yeah, I'm an oddball.
Well, do you have any advice for women who maybe are considering starting a business? They're not sure if they have the skills. Do you have advice for people?
I do. I've learned a lot of hard lessons, many of which that I'm still paying for over the years. And one would be, when you start a business, don't be afraid to keep your day job until that business is profitable, because I did not do that, and I paid very dearly for it. And the other thing is the rule of thumb that I have learned is that you have to make about 3 times you actually need to make. So if you need $50,000 a year to live on and pay your bills, then you better be making $150,000, because a third of it's going to go back into your business and a third of it's going to go to the IRS.
Yes.
And so that's the biggest thing that I've learned in 10 years of business of myself. And anyone can start a business. It's not hard, but can you be profitable? Mm-hmm. And that's the hardest lesson that I've learned.
Right. So people need to kind of take an honest look at that and figure
They do, and
how that will
keep
work.
the day job.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Keep the day job, because if you're really passionate about it and you want to start a business, then you'll figure out how to do both. And I mean, I've done both of so many things for so many years now. I'm kind of tired at this point. I'm doing a whole lot less of a whole lot more. So, but if you're passionate about it and that's really what you want to do, then you'll pay the price for it. And that if you can, I mean, if you have children, you be with your children, but keep the day job until the other one is profitable enough that you can quit.
Mm-hmm. Great advice. Well, how can people get in touch with you?
Well, they can always call me. I don't mind. Facebook, I'm pretty active on Facebook and Instagram. So Facebook is Marsha Lane Foster, yeah. And then my boudoir brand is Freedom Boudoir by Freedom Dreamer Photography on Facebook, and then Freedom Boudoir on Instagram. I have a group on Facebook that's Lane Foster Fine Art, and so that I don't have a business page for the art, but just a group. And it's a pretty active group, about 700 people in it. Also have a boudoir group called the Freedom Boudoir VIP Club, and it's fairly active too. So I try to create a lot of community for people. Mm-hmm. And I was saying earlier with the art gallery, my mission for the art gallery is the same as my mission has always been for the boudoir photography and fine art, and that's to empower people. So my vision with the gallery is to have one established artist that already has a following as a rule, and then fill the rest of the gallery with emerging artists so that they get that overflow and give the emerging artists the experience of working with the gallery so that they can move on and work with larger galleries.
Yes.
So everything I do is just about empowering people and teaching people and creating community.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.